Welcome back to Conversations with Affiliates. I'm here today with Michael Enwright, one of our fellows at the Abigail Adams Institute, and it's a pleasure to have you, Mike. And I just wanted to ask you, how did you get involved with the Abigail Adams Institute, and kind of what's your academic background? What led you to our door?
Sure. So I went to Boston University and I graduated in 2016, majored in piano performance and dabbled in composition a little bit. And one of my good friends I met at BU was involved in Abigail Adams through a medical ethics seminar, I think. And so he told me about the Institute generally. And while I was at BU, I had a great musical education, but I also had experience with their core program, which I can't recommend enough. BU core is awesome. And through there, I got a sort of, along with the musical side, a generalized introduction to kind of a great books program in the humanities. That's this awesome kind of meeting place of people who are all over these really specific interests in a research university coming together. So those classes that I took at BU kind of piqued my interest in the humanities. And then through my friend, Alex, after I heard about this, I decided to start coming to Great Conversations, and it's been really great and kind of continuing ed sort of thing for me, but it's really great, yeah.
Right. What texts or authors were most interesting to you from that core, if you remember any?
Probably Augustine Confessions. We had this incredible section actually on Gilgamesh, which we read again in Abigail Adams. King Lear.
Oh, that's great.
I
yeah.
remember going to see a play, a production of it in downtown Boston with our class and having this amazing discussion afterwards, and having one of the most satisfactory paper writing experience I've had through that. So it's personal as well.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Do you have any professors or teachers there that helped guide you where you are now, or that you would recommend for anyone attending BU currently or in the future?
On the musical side of things, Professor Rodney Lister, composition professor, who I've studying with since high school, and I can't recommend him enough. He just is the biggest internal, just mental library of music that I've ever heard. He has recommendations for everything, and especially as a young composer, just people interested in music generally, highly recommend studying theory with him or studying composition if you're in a musical field. However, for humanities, I don't know if she's the director anymore, where she is now, because I graduated in 2016, but Stephanie Nelson, Professor Stephanie Nelson, was totally wonderful. She was the director of the core curriculum while I was there, and she was just the most fascinated person. She was so interested in all the texts that we were reading, and really great at towing the line between keeping us on track, but also letting the discussion go where it needed to go to kind of get everybody's voices heard, but also to draw out sort of the disagreements we might have over interpretations or trying to really understand things. So she was really fantastic for helping me read more deeply and value the humanities more generally.
Right. And you're talking about kind of that aspect of the discussion or the conversation back and forth. Have you found that similarly with our Great Conversation?
Yeah, it's the same appeal of just that a small group of people getting together talking about great ideas is almost a wonderful thing.
Right. Yeah, I remember after one of the sessions, I remember this specifically, and I'll cite it to people sometimes. We attempted to read in an hour and a half the entire Wasteland poem by T.S. Eliot. And I remember talking with you afterwards, and you were saying how kind of in a positive way, but you were very frustrated by the fact that we couldn't get farther into it, and it made you want to do more and spend more time on that poem, which I think that's really kind of the goal of the Great Conversation in a way. Not to get people frustrated, but to get people excited or interested in reading, getting into it more, because you can only do so much in an hour and a half, but if you spark an interest, you can kind of keep going with it. And poetry is helpful to read in a group. So where have your musical interests taken you today?
So right now I work as a church musician in Boston and freelance composer as much as possible. So that takes up most of my time musically, but the life of a musician is always one gig to the next. So It's the center of liturgical music and all this other constellation of like ads or any other scoring gig I can find.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're writing music, do you have a style or a genre? Have you found kind of your musical voice as a composer, or are you still trying to work that out, or you're working on whatever is required of you right now?
That's a good question. I don't. I think if the longer you compose, the more you sort of find what you're good at. And often I'll start with an idea of like, oh, I'm going to try to do this thing. But if you just get into, a sort of flow state of writing, you find that you're automatically doing what you're best doing, or sort of getting in touch with whatever subconscious ideas you have floating around. You can only write something you like, basically.
Right.
And
right.
so the short answer to that is I've found my voice, I think, but not intentionally, just through keeping on writing and trying to imitate things I love and seeing what comes of that.
Do you have composers or musicians that are inspirations to you, maybe subconsciously or consciously, that you try to emulate? You have inspirations academically with kind of these, like Augusta and these writers, but also musically, there's stuff that floats around in the head.
Yeah, I guess I really like people who do things that are very new and very old. So the first guy...
That's everything, though.
That's very true. Yeah, I love Benjamin Britten because
Okay.
he combines sort of like, he goes back to Gregorian chants, this like old medieval stuff or folk song materials, and recontextualizes it in this totally new way. And so he's a huge inspiration for me. This is a little left field in terms of there's a kind of a pop musician or producer I really like right now who makes this really bizarre, like almost like frenetic music. His name's Danny L. Harl.
Okay.
He's in England, and he I think based in London. And he does that as well, where he will like look back to like Baroque music or like Purcell, and then he will take that and try to figure out how to recontextualize that in a new sense. And it's really strange and interesting, and it totally hits that sweet spot for me.
Right.
It's weird stuff, but I really like it. Anyway, that's
a good mix. To wrap up, do you have any book recommendations or musical recommendations for people kind of that you think would be worthwhile to spark that interest?
The first thing that comes to mind is Britten's Ceremony of Carols, because it's such a classic, and I love it. In fact, just right down the road here, we heard the boys' choir do it at St. Paul's. That's like one of my favorite all-time pieces. In terms of books, I can tell you the book I just finished reading, which I found really interesting, though I have to definitely reread it. A lot of it is a book called The Theological Origins of Modernity by Michael Gillespie. It's just about, he's a professor at Notre Dame, I think, and it's about, or Duke. Yes, he's a Duke, and he's just talking about sort of the roots of modernity or modern thought as we know it, tracing that back to the Reformation.
Okay.
And so at the moment that is very interesting to me.
Nice. Well, thanks a lot for being here today. It's always great to talk with you and to get kind of your insight and perspective on the humanities, going as far as the music, which we always like to include here at the Institute. So thank you for your time.
Great, thank you so much.
Thanks.